How's it going, guys, and welcome to your morning cup. Now, I want to talk about the origins of the infamous Jalebis. Now, when I'm talking about a jalebi, you're most probably wondering as to why are we talking about jalebis all of a sudden. But yeah, it's important to talk about jalebis right about now, and take my word for it. What we need to address first and foremost is that yes, they are infamous in India. Yes, they have their ancient origins in India, but they did originate from somewhere else. So they have a track record in India for a long time now, upwards of 150 years, if you will. But this delicacy has been around for upwards of 1,000 years. You see, the origins of the jalebi were in the Middle East and in Egypt. Also, the royals of Egypt kind of love. Technically, when you move your way around India and you run into a jalebi maker and you buy a bunch of jalebis, you're actually indulging in something that the Egyptian royals at some point in time indulged in as well, thereby making you somewhat of a royal yourself. Let's just leave that out there, but yeah. So, what are jalebis actually called in the Middle East or in Egypt? They're most definitely not called what they're called in India right now, of course not. They're called zulbia, and this word originally came in from the Persian invaders when they invaded India. So they brought with them a bunch of things, essentially, for lack of a better terminology, to saturate the Indian subcontinent with a bunch of more culture. And if you look at the Indian subcontinent, you understand the fact that there is a lot of culture brewing in this tiny little spot that we have in terms of the Indian peninsula. But what we also understand is the fact that when it came down to jalebis, it blew up after that song came out about Jalebi Bai. Yes. Also, there's been a very ancient saying in Indian mythology dictating that he's very straightforward, almost like a jalebi, and that is in reference to the shape of the jalebi, which is anything but straightforward. Now, that is to contain it, essentially. Now, I did a deep dive into why the jalebi is actually a spiral, and it turns out that the way it's made out of flour, essentially, maida, if you will. But bottom line being is that once the concoction is made and when they dip it into oil, when they release it into oil for it to then get fried and then essentially take its own shape, they prefer to make it in circles because that is much more concentrated and they can do a bunch of them in the same vessel, and that's about it. So by no means is it a written rule that your jalebi can't be a straight line, thereby breaking one of the biggest myths that I thought I knew since I was a kid. I'm questioning life choices right about now, but it is what it is. What we also understand is the fact that including Arab countries of Yemen, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Comoros, zalbia or fried dough food, including types that are similar to straight donuts, if you will, is exactly what jalebi is. What we also understand is the fact that zalbia is made from a batter composed of eggs, flour, milk, and then cooked in oil. So essentially what I said was that concoction that they made, they use that and then they cook it in oil, and whatever shape you want to give that concoction when you're putting it into the oil is exactly what will come out the other end. You see, they are made by a vszalbani. Unlike jalebi, zalbias may have a different shape, more of a free-form donut kind of an ordeal. And when I talk about unlike jalebis, vszalbanis. Now, vszalbanis are mostly North African. So they've got a wide disposition of jalebis existing throughout the globe. And what was once thought as one of the best selling desserts in India and the subcontinent turns out that it's actually got its roots further out west than we could have comprehended. What we also understand is the fact that depending on the exact region and culture, there is a wide discrepancy as to how these things are made. Some people might add cinnamon, some people might add lemon, some people might add sugar, some people might add powdered sugar, some people might add sugar syrup, some people might add milk, some people might add a non-new concoction known as rubbery or curd, if you will. So, by all specs of the imagination, what we understand today is the fact that jalebis have a life of their own, people. And even though jalebis might not always be the same way in the future, considering that we have this weird health kick running amok and people are very well concerned about what they might look like in the future, something that I should definitely take a few notes out. I've put on a bunch of weight since I got here, so it's very concerning. But nevertheless, what we do understand is the fact that jalebis can be straight. And if that was the question that you needed answered, consider yourself enlightened. See you tomorrow.